Edition of the Town Board Workshop on Thursday, September 9th. We have three agenda items tonight. The first one is a public hearing for the proposed wastewater pollution control facility asset renewal project and water resource recovery facility improvements project. So I am going to open the public meeting. Does anybody from the public want to get up?
Good evening. I'm Ken Corpus, and I'm at 1464 Grand Meadows Way. And the first thing is this Phase 2 public hearing. It was posted in a supervisor session yesterday, but then the meeting information was published today. It's been about 5 hours ago, which is really not enough information for everybody to digest what was published. And as you can see, there's absolutely nobody here. I don't know how many people are watching live. It's a $30 million project, which is a pretty big project. And out of all the information that's there, I don't see anything that tells me how much my sewer rate's going to go up or anything. So it says that this includes some millions of dollars of generated revenue from what is essentially the output sludge that you were paying somebody to take away, but it doesn't tell me how much it's worth or whether or not you have a buyer for it. So my question is, how much is it worth, and do you have a buyer for it? And if you don't have a buyer for it, what happens then with the cost of this project? How do you make up that difference? Also, it says you may use $4 million from the CARES Act. I would like to know if that's the case or not. In order for me to make a reasonable judgment on whether I support this, I need to know what monies are being spent and how. It says you've applied for a $5 million grant. Again, there's no information about the grant, where it's coming from, who it is, how much it is going to be applied, and if you can get it, what's the likelihood. Again, this all comes down to how much is it going to cost each property owner if all of that money comes through, and then what is the likely result if some of it or all of it doesn't come through. There's approximately 45,000 residents of Webster that should be given an opportunity to vote on this project given its large size, just like was promised when Mr. Flaherty was running for supervisor. This is not being transparent. This is not conservative government, especially given the large increase that we're also going to see from the budget, which has not been released yet. Also, I would just like to remind you, this can be subject to a permissive referendum.
Thanks, Ken. Is anybody else in the public want to get up and say anything? Okay. Well, then I am going to close the public hearing. And does the board have any questions, comments, anything on this as we progress on this? I think the next step in this is next week. Barry?
Well, I think that Rick and Art could probably answer some of those questions.
I think Paul could, if you're talking about Ken's
some numbers.
questions.
Numbers? Well, yeah.
They're in the FAQ, which I know came out late, right? So the current sewer rent, O&M and capital combined, is proposed to be $190, $145 for 2022. If we get the WIA grant, which is $5 million, and don't apply any of the American Rescue Funds, which is $4 million, I calculated that the rate will go up to $253.34, which is an increase of, significant increase of $62. If we apply the American Rescue Funds of $4 million and get the WIA grant, I calculated the sewer rent at $240.43, which would be an increase of about $49 from where we sit right now. So basically, you're gonna pay about $50,000 per year for every $1 million that's borrowed through a bond anticipation note or a bond. The project would take probably 2 years to complete, right, Rick? And so we would borrow gradually. It'd be funded initially with a partial borrowing through a bond anticipation note. The same would occur in year 2, and then most likely in year 3, we would put it out to a serial bond. So it wouldn't be, 2023 wouldn't be the full jump in the rate. It'd be maybe halfway. Instead of being 253, you might end up at like 225. So it's still up, significantly.
And Paul, that is,
From where we're at now, but it's
that's
not unexpected.
I'm sorry, that's not factoring in any of the cost savings and revenue production that the board has heard in the
No,
last.
it is actually.
It is,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I factored in, there's going to be some additional costs for maintenance and utility costs, but we're going to have additional revenue, at least $500,000 a year. And we're going to have landfill savings for the sludge. Right now, we're paying about $400,000 a year to dispose of the sludge, and we're figuring that initially we're going to save at least $250,000 a year off of that number, and that savings will go up as time goes by, because that may actually even be conservative, the 250, because we're expecting the fees to dispose of the sludge to go up quite a bit next year. It's kind of based on where we're at right now, so.
We have to negotiate a new contract or put it out for RFP again, don't we?
Yeah, it has to go out to bid
Sludge
again.
hauling?
We're working with with Casella to extend the contract.
Okay.
And they've been, this far, I'm sorry, we're working with our disposal company, Casella, and I've reached out to them numerous times to discuss extending the contract, and thus far, they've been silent. So we keep pounding them to hopefully.
I'm not sure where you picked that up, Ken, of selling a buyer for the sludge. That there was nowhere in that article it said that we're selling the sludge. It's the cost of disposing of the sludge. And, how you reference that article, I said in that article that in 2019 at the budget hearings that I'm sure you attended, prior Supervisor Nesbitt said, here's the reality. We got to go from $250,000 a year of cost to dispose of the sludge to a landfill. We got to go to $500,000. And that's the reality we're facing, and it's going to get worse as it goes forward, and that's why there's new technology in this plan that will potentially, well, it will definitely cut the sludge hauling cost, but it could eliminate the sludge hauling cost because and I'd let Rick and Art discuss this, it could come down to a form of fertilizer that we could give away or potentially sell.
Yeah, this proposed technology is drying the sludge, and it will create a Class A biosolid, which is a fertilizer, can be land applied, can be put in gardens. But we're looking at it as just reducing our costs, and we're looking at landfills closing. All of a sudden, now you become a captive audience, and they can charge anything they want. So we're trying to be the driver of our own future for our sludge and reduce cost. We're talking probably, we do like, in terms of 30% solids now, 70% water, which is very heavy. We're looking at a 90% solid off of this dryer, which is only 10% water, which now you reduced your hauling costs by a lot. And that's what we're looking to do. And then all of a sudden, bottom line is right now, we're looking conservatively as still landfilling, but then there's a potential of giving it away, which eliminates your hauling costs, or, farmers could use it or something like that. So there's a lot of viable products to go out of this drying technology.
Rick, would you talk about the possibility of revenues?
Yeah, what we're looking to do is upgrade digesters, increase our treatment capacities, which will open up revenue streams by waste that are all around the area. You're starting to have organics bans in the landfills. They don't want our sludge. They don't even want organics in there because of the methane, refuge methane that's released off. So there's going to be a lot of areas that the state is going to ranch it down on. So organics are going to have to go to certain places that can treat it, and it's digesters or compost facilities. So those are a lot of avenues that are leachate from landfills. So there's potential out there for revenue generation with this upgrade because we'll increase our treatment capacity. But we have infrastructure that has to be done no matter what. We're looking to add equipment on that will pay for itself and also help pay for that infrastructure asset renewal that has to happen no matter what. It's the cost of doing business. So we're
Thanks.
kind of diligent in looking at this
Yeah.
technology and seeing if it's viable or not.
And I do want to say that, you know, and Ken, I appreciate you coming tonight. I mean, this is the way government should work, and there should be more people here. I don't think the lack of people being here is because 5 hours ago we posted on our website and on Facebook some FAQs about this. Because this board meeting tonight is the 10th straight board meeting since June 24th that has had as the topic this $31 million project, either as the only thing that we've had on the agenda or as a main part of the agenda. As far as talking to people in government, a lot longer than me, this could be the Joe DiMaggio 56-game hitting streak. Unprecedented that 10 straight board meetings that we have been dealing on this. So Ken will agree to disagree on the transparency of this, because I think we are really trying to be transparent, and we will continue to try to be transparent on this, as that article that you read today said. Based on getting shovel ready and the timing of all this, we will try to have platforms for the community similar to what we did on Sandbar Park subsequent to bond resolution next week. And as Paul or somebody had said, you know, when you said as Supervisor Flaherty promised referendums, there are certain things that are subject to referendums. This is a representative republic government. And I know you know that, Ken. You vote for your leaders to make these decisions, and if the citizens say, I don't trust my leaders to make that decision, then you have the opportunity to go and do a permissive referendum. And I invite the community after next week to take advantage of that permissive referendum if they feel as if, en masse, that the town board is not representing them and their best interest. So,
Thank you for that.
you got it.
One question. Prior to tonight, when Paul gave those numbers about how much our rate was going to go up, was discussed regarding that amount. Have there ever been disclosure on that?
Well, Ken, I'll put it to you this way. One, because I know that you have been involved in government a lot longer than me, I'm going to give some latitude on this and answer your question, even though the public hearing portion of this is closed. And if I went by the letter of the law, Attorney Genesi, the public doesn't have a chance to talk on this anymore, right? But you know what, Ken? It's a good question. And I still think what you just did as the estimates is worst case.
Yeah, it is.
It really is, because if I have my druthers, and this is what I'm really trying to keep the eye on the ball on this one. As you look at the information on this, the cost savings and the revenue production could end up basically paying for $10 to $12 million of this bonding. So you take a $31 million project, and I don't want to get complicated on math. If we got the cost savings and revenue production to cover the annual cost of principal and interest of $10 or $12 million, you come back to the original plan of 18 to 20 million for the phase 2 that the previous supervisor in this board were basically going to be going forward with, okay? But the numbers that we've seen and gone over in these 10 straight board meetings and got into great detail on, it actually could kick off even more cash flow than that could cover another $2, $3, $4, $5 million of bonding, all right? And I know you're a business owner, so you can see where I'm going on this. Now, if we maximize out the grants for WIA, and if we go to get other grants because of the atmosphere we're in right now as far as the world, and I don't sit here and make any judgments, and I'm not here to talk about whether I agree with $1 trillion or $3 trillion infrastructure spending at the federal level. It's not my part as the town supervisor in the job that I was hired to do to really opine on that. But if that money's available, I will assure you we will do everything in our power to go and get that infrastructure money for the people of Webster. So, if we end up getting grants and things like that that end up being 15 million in total on this project, it is very possible that the cost savings and the revenue production, day one, covers the financing, principal and interest of $15 million. And what you end up with is a brand spanking new plant, state of the art, that has a budget neutral effect. Budget neutral. That the town is out no more money today than it is when that $31 million addition is put on. And in that case, you could conceivably have our EDU charge with O&M and all that still be around 195 or 200, because at the end of the day, that EDU charge is to cover all the expenses of the sewer plant, including financing. Well, if you've cut the expenses so much from operations from new technology, then your EDU charge basically stays the same.
Net of revenue too, yeah.
God, I just gave a long-winded accounting version of that, huh?
Yeah.
So, to me, next week we are far from done. Because I'm not resting on the laurels of that.
No.
I want to push the envelope, and Matt Chatfield, he knows where I stand on this. He gets us a lot of grant. He knows how to write grants. That's what I'm looking for. And I hope I'm speaking on behalf of the board, too.
I just think we really need to go back to the fact that a good 20 million of this has to be done. I would hate to see that go to a permissive referendum and get shot down, because there are pieces of that plant right now that are in desperate need of replacement. And yeah, so I want people to realize that a good portion of this has to be done. We're not spending foolishly on this, but when we look at the new technology to go along with it, I mean, if we're going to be in this game, we have to be in this game. If we're going to run a wastewater recovery facility, we've got to do it the right way. And I applaud both Rick and Art for bringing these new technologies to our table and letting us know that what can be done and that there are opportunities for revenue. And that's something that we've missed for several years because of the condition of some of the equipment.
So, with that in mind, and this continues on with the genre of sewer and this project being 10 meetings in a row as we move past the public hearing aspect of this, next up on our agenda is our Chief Plant Operator, Rick Keneally, giving a presentation discussion of, I think, performance contracting and how it could possibly be an option for the town as we move into this $31 million project. And I want to say it was about 4 or 5 board meetings ago that a group of gentlemen came up from Baltimore, from Navitas, and presented and first introduced the town board to the concept of Article 9, whatever, performance contracting, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You want me over there?
We need to hit
That's
the
all right,
lights.
that's all right. And Ken, those were good questions, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. I just felt, obviously, performance contracting was kind of a new concept here, and I just wanted to show that I've had some experience with those, a couple projects in Rome, and show kind of some different sides to those as we experience them in Rome. So I just kind of, and through this, any questions, please let me know. I was clicking with this. So again, my experience, 35 years in Rome with a bunch of projects, utilize the regular design build normally. in the late in the next 2 decades after the 90s, we kind of jumped into the performance contracting. And we had experience with 2 different companies, and I'm just going to call them Company A and Company B for now. Got to do something. So the first project was pretty much asset renewal. It was in 2009, we had aging infrastructure in need of repair, limited upside on our treatment capacity, we had energy intensive equipment, and we wanted to be proactive instead of reactive in emergency repairs, which costs a lot more than being proactive. Again, it's just the cost of doing business. So the aeration upgrade was the major part of it. We were dealing with the liquid handling side for these upgrades. And we had clarifier work, but the main thing was the aeration upgrade. So we selected Company A, seemed to be very viable in the industry at the time. They already had engineering team A, you'll see a pattern here, on board. So they were already teamed up. We did a lot of legwork, calling municipalities, townships, visiting them, looking at equipment for this upgrade. With performance contracting, we were able to select the equipment we wanted after talking to different places, what didn't work, what did work, and we were able to pick them without going with lowest bidder. The early on analysis showed immediate payback with the installation of this new technology. So we had surface aerators, 10 tanks that had 40 horsepower motors churning 24/7 and churning the water, the activated sludge to create dissolved oxygen. We were going to diffuse there with membrane diffusers, kind of like what we're looking to do with this project. We have ceramic disc right now. We're looking to replace them with membrane diffusers. What we liked about that is the cleaning aspect. You don't have to use acid, which is very dangerous with individuals. So we were looking, and we had some neighboring townships that use these diffusers, and they were very happy with that, with installation and maintenance. So we went with those diffusers, along with 3 new Turbolex blowers to add dissolved oxygen. We went with dissolved oxygen meters, which we do not have currently in Webster, and that's part of the project to control DOs in each tank, gives us greater treatment capacity, and control your blowers at lower levels to save energy. So we had a blower turn down via these sensors. We saw some lower end that we can get to. We actually tweaked it down to these levels, which are levels of dissolved oxygen in the tanks, which were lower than design, and I'll get to those further along. So we also had a cleaning cycling that was automatic. Valves would close, diffusers would relax, they would kick back up again, and it was a cleaning to slough off anything that was growing on them. Plus, in these diffusers, there's check valves. The little holes that have the air come out of them are check valves, and they can get a memory in them. So this kind of reset the memories. And, sorry, wrong button. So that also, the cleaning schedules that you could do with these membrane diffusers also helps with your treatment capacity. So we saw early on savings with energy. With all of the tweaking of the process plus the changing out of the 40 horsepower motors, we were over 3 million kilowatt hours in energy usage down to less than actually 2, which was a 30% drop in energy usage. So along with that though, and how we were able to tweak the process from the original design of 2 milligrams per liter, we increased our treatment capacity and increased our potential for revenue. So we saw some other savings other than just the energy savings. So along with the treatment capacity increase, we were able to go out, look around the area, and bring in more waste. We are averaging, prior to this upgrade, about $50,000 in septage revenue, and we, by 2013, we're up over $200,000 in revenue in just septage. Same with leachate. We are down around 50,000, and we jumped up to around 175,000. So for a total kind of revenue generation of from 124 up to over $500,000, and that was 2013. When I left Rome, we were up over $1 million in revenue in outside waste. So this performance contract, and getting back to that, is they have to verify the savings because they're guaranteeing you this payback on your project, that's what they do. How do they guarantee the project? And this was on the energy savings. So they installed an EMON-DEMON sub-metering system. They came in and took readings off it regularly to verify the savings. We were paying them somewhere around $17,000, $18,000 a year to do that. Then they started having us give them the readings, and we were verifying this savings. We saw the revenue generation, and we were going to meet that guarantee without them having to verify it. So after 3 years, we actually cut them off and eliminated that annual verification because we knew we were going to meet that guarantee. So that project gave us proven energy savings, substantial revenue, and that was a success for us with performance contracting. So fast forward about 7 years, we now need to look at the solids handling side, digesters, thickeners, those types of tanks, pumps. And again, aging infrastructure, no real return on investment for that asset renewal, and limited treatment capacity. And again, we wanted to be proactive and not reactive. Again, cost of doing business, asset renewal. The base project was just the asset renewal, upgrading our digesters, upgrading other sorts of equipment. But we figured, you know what? Let's look at some other outside technologies and add revenue generation and energy savings and cost savings to help pay for that base asset project. And again, kind of like what we're looking at with this $20 million and the additional $11 million for this project. So we figured we would add combined heat and power, generate electricity from treating high-strength waste, and install a septic and high-strength waste receiving station to generate revenue, additional revenue. So again, the major component was the digester complex. We went out and we went back to Company A because we had success with them on the first project. But all performance contract companies are not created equal. A lot of them have specialties. A lot of them street lighting, water meters, building envelopes, energy savings, or solids handling. So we didn't know that at the time. We went with Company A, and we learned real quick that they weren't cut out for that job. So we let them go. We paid them a small fee that they had done for some investment. And we stumbled upon Company B and called them in. And they seemed more fit for the job. They had engineering team B on board with them already. We had already done our research on the equipment we wanted. Again, we could select the equipment we wanted, not lowest bidding, and that was by researching other facilities. And the original analysis showed increased treatment capacity, revenue generation, and cost avoidance. We had a 45-year-old digester, no mixing, covered need a replacement. And we had a secondary digester, which was pretty much a holding tank, and we wanted to turn that into a primary digester to increase our capacity. That was 70 years old from the original plant, 45 years old on the cover on that, and no mixing in that. So we were looking at about 1.2 million in treatment capacity for those. We were going to install a new gas holder on the secondary, and that's actually the gas holder that went in Rome. New mixing system, and as we know, the flare has to be moved 50 feet away from any gas source. We installed a new septic receiving station with dual offloading ports, automatic flow measurement to have proper reading of haulers' gallons. Enclosed building for odor control. This would pump it to a high-strength waste tank, storage tank, so we could feed our digesters constant feed rates, which digesters like that a lot better than batch feeding, which is what's going on in Webster right now. So Company B did a feasibility study, and those goals were pretty robust. They were to diversify its revenue collection through acceptance of high-strength waste, wanted to make sure the operational cost savings and generation of electricity will make Rome plant a net zero facility. The required infrastructure would be necessary to keep it operational and meeting all permit obligations, and that future economic growth would be supported by the capabilities and services of the facility. So they came up with 3 options. We could just do asset renewal. Let's just do what we needed to get done, like the $20 million project currently proposed for Webster. Or we could add some organic waste receiving and cogeneration to create electricity. Option 2 would just be to upgrade our 2 digesters, which would create enough kilowatt hours to take the plant off the grid. We also were thinking option 3, throw another digester in there, taking more waste, create enough energy, 800 kilowatts, to actually dump back to the grid and add another revenue stream. So the company B was looking around. We had a lot of options out there. The different wastes, for someone to haul it 60 miles somewhere, but maybe 40 us, they might pay 5 cents a gallon instead of 2 cents where they were paying it elsewhere. So what you would need this company to do is to kind of do an analysis and go out and talk to these places and what are they paying now and what are they willing to pay. So the revenue streams range from, if we were taking 20,000 gallons a day with the different rates from 2 cents all the way up to 6, brought in anywhere from $150,000 to $430,000 in revenue. But if we were looking to go all the way big and put the other digester on, we could be taking in 135,000 gallons, and through that pay range of 2 cents to 6, you're anywhere from $950,000 to almost $3 million in revenue. We looked at the average would be about 80,000 gallons at 4 cents a gallon, and we're looking at $1 million in revenue. So that's kind of what we were looking at in the landscape of waste for this digester project. It had the also economic benefits of the combined heat and power installation, which we were looking at microturbines to create electricity, $80,000 for electricity generation, $5,000 for natural gas, supplementing your natural gas usage. But with option 2, there would be no electricity to the grid if we were just upgrading our current digesters. Adding that third digester would have brought in another $100,000 in revenue back to the grid. So those are kind of the economic benefits that we were looking at on all the different options. So this company B went out and did a market study, pretty high-level market study to determine the potential waste out there. And they looked at a 60-mile radius, and they found 30 potential organic waste sources. We're talking dairy waste, 5 of them, 7 haulers that haul trapped grease waste from restaurants, dissolved air flotation waste from meat processing facilities, there was 3, food processing 9, liquid sludges, which are up and down the thruway, back and forth. 2 of them, commercial food waste, and actually airplane de-icing fluid, which is very good fuel for digesters. So back to the performance contracting and what their guarantee would be. It's not energy savings, it's a different project. So they were going to guarantee the high-strength waste coming in, which would drive the revenue and the electric generation. So what we would look at, what we could load our digesters if we were doing 2 digesters or 3, and it's a loading factor to say, okay, we can take in 80,000 gallons. So they would guarantee that 8,000 gallons that would drive the revenue and the energy generation. If 20,000 went away because some hauler wanted to go somewhere else, they would have to go out and find that other 20,000 to supplement. That's their guarantee. And on a project like we're looking at, that's where it may be a fit because that's what's going to drive ours, is the revenue and actually the sludges and stuff like that to bring in. So what happened with that project? Because it didn't quite go totally with performance contracting. So October of 2015, that feasibility study was completed, but we had a contested election coming up in 2015 in November. We didn't know which way the election was going to go, or the company didn't. They didn't want to produce their feasibility study to the administration that might not be there at the time. If they lose, new administration is coming in January, and we knew that there would be a lot of changes. So January, we hit the ground running with the new administration, met with them, explained the project. The feasibility study was presented. They, in February, put it on hold. And that's because this new mayor did not want to do anything the previous mayor was doing. So there was contention there. No matter if the project was good or not, they weren't doing it. So as we continue to move forward and investigate different things, I brought in a acid whey producer, dairy producer, and we did a pilot project. And I retrofitted one of the tanks to take in the waste to prove what that will do in gas production. And immediate gas production, it tripled. They showed there was value to it, there's revenue, there's gas production for electric generation. So this administration decided to go with design build and not performance contracting. Began construction in 2019, late 19, and it is still going on today. And some of the issues that came up was because it wasn't performance contracting and the proverbial one throat to choke, they're guaranteeing everything. They are the ones that are handling all the contractors underneath. The electrical contractor on this job decided there's a big hospital being put up in Oneida County, and they decided to pull all the guys and put them on that and left one electrician at the plant to do the job. Well, performance contracting, they would have said either you get everybody back here or we're firing you and we'll hire someone else because they have to get that job done. They're guaranteeing that job. They don't have that with design build bid. So they're at the, they need that electrician to get back or get some others or bring in legal action. So that's kind of where that project is at. We saw value in the performance contractor for that. This administration did not. So, any questions?
I've never heard one throat to choke before. That's a good one. You talked the first project with the Company A,
Yes.
and they were monitoring what the revenues and savings and all of that.
Not the revenues.
The
That was
savings.
something we found by how we tweaked the system and saw we had excess capacity, so we went out and got the revenue.
For the first project, Project A?
Yes, that was just energy savings,
So they were monitoring the
Yes.
guaranteed energy savings.
guaranteeing a payback.
What would have happened if they were monitoring that and it wasn't, you
They
weren't
cut a
getting-
check at the end of it for the difference.
Okay.
That's their guarantee.
But they come in and do an estimate of what they would think the overall project would cost.
Yeah, that's spelled out right in the beginning.
Right, and they're paid based upon the overall project, a
Yeah.
percentage of it, right?
Yeah, that's already,
Yeah,
that's
because
in the
that was
project
one of the
cost.
questions I had the last time when the gentleman was
Yes,
in here giving the
yep.
presentation, which I was a little bit skeptical because it's to their advantage. Our estimate is 30 million, 31 million.
Mm-hmm.
They come in and look at it, they're gonna be paid on a percentage, all of a sudden it goes to 35 million. That's where I have an issue. The other issue, it's not really an issue, but, we had phase one project came in, thanks to Art, under budget. So I have full confidence that he could bring phase two in also, under budget. And I'm being honest, I'm very
Yeah.
skeptical
Yeah.
about this,
Well, let me, if I can jump into that, John. So they're not completely paid on size of the project. They're also, they're grabbing some points, if you will, from the engineering firms and so forth.
Right.
And they're paid to drive down that cost, but to make it accurate. So it isn't a percentage right off the top of the project. It's the,
I guess I misunderstood him.
yeah, trust me, I'm still sort of learning about that, and that's a question I still have. But the engineers, if they take 10 points, then they might they'll negotiate with the engineers, and the engineers may only take 8. So it's not completely cut and dry right off the top.
I think it's a very big point on this is the guarantees of the revenues. Because without the guarantee, there's always a possibility you can build it and not experience the revenues. But if you have guarantees, they're gonna do the legwork. They're gonna make sure that the waste is coming in.
All right.
So to Barry's point, okay, how many years out do they guarantee that revenue is gonna come in? They'll subsidize whatever revenue loss is. Is
Right.
it just year one, or is it year 1 through 10?
Well, I think that's where we come in, and we put a price tag on that. Do we want it guaranteed for 10 years? But that's gonna cost.
Well,
Because
No, I'm
there's
just
a
saying
cost to
that
the
you
guarantee.
weigh-
Yeah,
Huh?
Correct.
we can't control that cost.
So,
That's not what he said.
Well, you can absolutely control the cost. The cost is built into a contract in the front
yes,
end.
whatever
Whatever we negotiate.
yeah,
But my point is you have to negotiate that cost.
right.
And that cost could be a lot more than what you might normally cost to do a project.
and we know that up front.
We know that up front, and they would guarantee those revenues. So if the revenues were $100,000 and their cost is 10, you know, if we're not meeting that, that $100,000 revenue share, then they'd have to pick up that balance.
So one would assume that they're going to do their level best to make sure that we're getting that, because they don't want to pay it out.
Well, absolutely. They're going to do their due diligence on the area within, I think Rick said it, when Rome did a 60 mile radius.
I guarantee it.
Well, there's a couple things here. Is one, we absolutely know that there's $19-20 million worth of work that has to be done. That's not a question. That has to be done. Along the way through, from 2019 to today, we've discovered a technology that can come in and reduce our hauling costs substantially. Anywhere from 50% to 75% to even, possibly even greater. And we know that that's not going to get any better. We're stuck in a position where our hauling costs, we're held hostage.
Right.
There's only a limited number of landfills that will even take it, and people that will haul it, and they hold all the cards. And it's not going to get any cheaper because some of these landfills are closing. So the ones that are remaining open they're going to be charging more. I mean, that's their business.
And us hauling it away is not going to go away.
And waste hauling is not going away.
I don't think anybody on the board questions the fact that we need this new technology, this drying technology.
Yeah,
We're all
it's-
on the same page.
It's how you want to
Okay,
deliver the project.
It's the, who do we want to manage this project? And I said it before and I'll say it again, I have full faith in Art managing this project and not paying someone else to come in and, give them a percentage based on guarantees.
I have complete faith in Art to bring it in under budget as well, but I really don't have the faith in Art to be able to go out and get all the revenue because he's so busy getting the project in under budget.
You know, and I appreciate.
Please don't
No,
take that the
and
wrong
I
way.
appreciate the confidence. It's a big project, and I think there's still some unanswered questions regarding performance contracting.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rick helped us understand a little bit from his viewpoint. But I personally, I think there's more questions to be answered, and we need to dig deeper
Right.
before
I
a
agree.
decision is made.
Yeah, and
At this point, I'm just very skeptical about it.
No, and tonight's discussion was just for Art to really explain to us what
Yeah.
his experience was, which is very helpful. Because the company that did come in, when they presented to us, of course, they're trying to sell their service to us.
Right.
And it was a brand-new concept to many of us. So I appreciate your experience with this. I think it's really valuable that we have you here to let us know how it went, because you have done a couple of projects that way, and you've done a couple that didn't go that way. So that's, it's good for us to hear that. I don't think we're going to be making a decision on whether we're going to do this at all.
I was just hoping to bring some value to.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I believe that you did, so we'll certainly continue the discussion.
And to your credit, Art, it can be said that the project that is just completed now is maybe the only project that's ever happened down there that came in under budget and on time.
You know, it's a team effort between Rick and I and everybody down at the plant and our engineering partners.
You don't see that very often.
No,
The government.
everybody
projects
did a
coming
great
in under
job.
budget and on time. So,
Yep.
outstanding work by everybody, especially you, Art.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
No? Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Rick.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
The next item on the agenda is discuss the options to utilize the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds American Rescue Plan. And I think, Paul, you're going to lead the discussion. You sent us quite a bit of information. Thank you. I did get through the first 26 pages of the 40-some, and then I said, okay, I'll learn more tonight.
Yeah, the state did provide a nice FAQ, which provided guidelines. So I went through that FAQ and just kind of summarized a few things, which I sent out to you, I think over a week ago. Hopefully you got a chance to read that.
To date, the amount of money that we're going to get is $4,050,500 or $859 in total, and we've received 50% of that to date. The other 50% we'll receive in about 11 months from now, probably next July. And basically, the funds are to be held as a deferred revenue. I've got them recorded right now in the general part-town fund. And they sit in deferred revenue until you spend them. So once you identify use for the funds, as you spend them, the money gets transferred to match those expenses and you recognize the revenue. And there are reporting requirements. We're considered an NEU or a non-entitlement unit because we have a population under 50,000 people. So we actually receive the money directly from the state as opposed to directly from the federal government. And so basically, we have to determine how we're going to spend those funds. As I said, there'll be an annual reporting requirement. Because we're an NEU, the first report is due at the end of October, and then it'll be each October after that. You basically got, let me see, through 2024 to commit the funds, and you actually have through the end of 2026 to complete spending those funds. So we have time. The timing is good, depending on what we want to determine how to use those funds.
And there are specific uses for these funds as well.
Yeah, we can walk through the various uses, which I highlighted on my document. The first, it could be used for public health emergency. So funds could be used to aid households, to fund vaccine incentive programs, back to work incentives, public job programs, things along those lines. Or it could be used to reimburse the town for revenue loss. We did lose revenue in 2020, as most governments and businesses did. So basically, you would use the year prior to the pandemic, which would be 2019, to serve as a baseline. And then you would compare subsequent years to that. So you'd compare 2020 to 2019, calculate your revenue loss, and you can actually allocate some of the funds toward that. I think probably the area that we lost the most is in Parks and Recreation.
Right.
Sales tax, we actually came in above budget, believe it or not, because we budgeted conservatively. And mortgage tax was more than what we had counted on because a lot of people refinanced during that period. So we can think about covering some of the revenue loss. The number 5, I just had some general uses. You can pool the funds for regional projects. So if we were doing a project with a village or another entity, it could be used toward that. It can be used for premium pay. You can award premium pay to essential workers. I guess in our case, we don't have healthcare workers, but I suppose our police could be considered essential. And then number 7 on my list can be used for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. And of course, that's where we certainly do have a need based on what Art and Rick just explained tonight. So it could be used for the Phase 2 wastewater treatment plant. We could decide to use the entire $4 million toward that. And we would have till 2026 to spend that money. So the period of time works.
Can any of it be used to the Phase 1?
Can't use it for Phase 1 because that's already been expended.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be
It would have to all go to Phase 2?
ongoing expenses.
Okay,
Yeah, you can't go back. They have a rule that you can't use it for debt service.
all right.
So we bonded that project in July, so we're already paying the debt. So too late for that one. It could be used for modernization of cybersecurity, hardware, software, and protection of critical infrastructure. I mean, we could probably talk to Steve Peace to see if he has any critical needs, if we wanted to allocate some of the money that way. But the funds can be used for pre-project development for the sewer project. It can even be used for the repair of roads that are disrupted due to a project.
Okay.
That's essentially it. The funds would be subject to a single audit, which is when you receive over $750,000 a year from the federal government, they require a special audit. It's called a single audit. That ought to be done by our CPA firm, which is currently Mengel, Metzger, and Barr. But they did say that the fee for that audit is also an eligible expense, so it can go toward that. So I think essentially, I've got to file a report at the end of October, but I don't know that I really need to have a firm plan in place by then, but it would be nice if we had some inkling as to how this money is going to be spent.
I was going to
Obviously,
ask
it's-
if,
the sewer is obvious, an obvious choice.
I was going to ask if that's what they were looking for by the end of October, was the commitment of
Well,
where
I
we're
think
going to
that's going to
spend.
be part of it. I think they're going to have questions as to where you're expecting to spend the funds.
I'd say with a $30 million project, we should probably
Yeah.
seriously consider phase 2 of the sewage treatment.
That's the
plant.
cleanest way. If
Yeah.
all the money was put toward that one project, it
Right.
would certainly save a lot of debt in the future.
Well, that's where I'd like to see it go.
So, I don't,
Well, thank you for that, Paul, and I'm sure this is something that we're going to be discussing in the next few weeks,
Sure.
because we do have that October deadline.
yep.
I just want to acknowledge that County Legislator George Hebert is in the audience tonight. I know you were here to hear about this as well.
Yeah, one of the things that we are working on at the county level is conducting what I'll call a listening session in the towns. Webster and Tom Flaherty, the supervisor, is already working with my assistants to schedule that so that we can hear what the public thinks we should be doing with that money. County level, there's $72 million in-house and another $72 million coming roughly 11 months from now.
Right.
And we have basically the same rules regarding it. One thing I believe is slightly different than what you were told is that you don't need to have a plan by the October 31st.
Okay. I wasn't sure of that.
We certainly, I don't expect that we'll have, we certainly won't have a full plan. I doubt we'll have committed anything at that point. Because again, we want to listen. We want to do this right. There's money in all different levels of government, federal, state, county, town, village, school districts, and a great example would be broadband and IT infrastructure. Each of those entities could do the same thing and just waste a whole bunch of money. We want to work smarter than that, and that's why we want to do listening sessions and then work closely with the towns on potential joint activities.
So unlike the CARES funding, which the county received and then it was passed on to the town, am I correct on that?
It was not allowed to be, yes, you are correct.
Right.
This is going to each entity, so when the county is doing their listening sessions, how do you see the county spending that money? Is it going to be strictly for county projects, or did you say you're looking to partner with towns?
We're looking to do what's best for the future of our county.
Okay.
And that's why we want to hold these listening sessions, if you will, from Webster out to Parma, all the way down to Rush and Henrietta, and you name it.
Good.
In the city as well.
Okay.
And, the city received, what, I believe it's over $300 million, so ARPA funds. The school district got another $200 million. I don't think the city. There's a lot of money floating around right now.
Yikes.
And it's got to be used. Webster School District got money, Penfield School District.
Sure.
got money.
Are they held to the same restrictions that we are?
Barry, that I can't answer because there are different lists, as your finance guy can tell you. And I have not read the school lists, so there could be some differences. I do not know.
My question would be that if we didn't at present have a wastewater treatment plant upgrade going on, and it's only good for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, and We don't have any water going on as well.
We might have trouble spending it, right?
What would we do with it?
Yeah,
You'd have to use broadband.
exactly right.
Well, we
Revenue
could've-
loss will only amount to so much.
We could apply
You could-
some, we could apply some to lost revenue, we could
Right.
apply some to our information technologies. I mean, we would be piecing it out in different areas. I'm sure we'd find places to use it.
Exactly.
Steve would be thrilled.
Yes, you would.
We're not making any promises to anyone tonight, right? No. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
Oh, you're
Thanks,
welcome,
Paul.
Patty.
Yes. And George, thanks for being here.
My pleasure, and nor are we making any promises at the county level other than we want to hear what our constituents have to say. And I think that's true for all of us in this room.
Good. Thank
Do you
you.
think Monroe County would consider throwing a few bucks towards our wastewater treatment plant?
Barry, I'm not in a position to guess on that at this point. Again, we have not yet held our first listening session. We want to hear what the county residents have to say. So, can't say, just don't know.
Because I believe we are the only other treatment plant in Monroe County, are we
Yeah.
not?
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, besides the village.
Yes.
In the village.
Yeah.
right.
Wait, how about Honeywell Falls? They used to have their own treatment plant.
don't
Do they
think
still
so.
have their own treatment plant?
They're gonna
I think they
their
do.
own county facilities.
Yes.
Well, that would be a
Okay.
good thing, too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any more discussion on
Thanks,
anything
George.
tonight?
Good to see you.
No? Then I think the workshop meeting is ended. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.